Hey folks, this is just a reminder that oftentimes messages of empowerment, specifically on social media, don't actually empower anybody but the person that is telling you about the empowerment. Now, I reached this conclusion relatively easily by watching a bunch of different creators get on here, and they talk about different things. One of the most common things that you hear, depending upon the circles you're in on the internet, is about all the narcissism that's everywhere. Right? Everybody's a narcissist. I've dealt with this narcissist, and this guy was a narcissist, and usually it's a partner calling somebody else a narcissist. But one of the aspects of that particular narcissistic trait that is often harped on is the way that a narcissist will take you and pull you away from your friends and family and things like that and try to isolate you. Now, I would say hold on to that thought and remember that as I point out something else. One of the most common things that you hear here on the internet is, in terms of empowerment, is how, well, as you level up, you're going to lose people. As you do this, people are going to fall away. This is a way of thinking that honestly is in line with the pre-mentioned narcissistic isolation thing, except it's skewed and turned into a way of teaching empowerment or preaching empowerment in being an individual and being on your own. You need to be powerful, you need to be able to do it all yourself. And to which, there is something to that. There is some empowerment in your ability to stand alone. I agree with that 100%. However, oftentimes people that will try to sell you this, people that will try to tell you this, are really doing it in the same way that is presumed narcissistic. They're doing it to isolate you, to get it so that you're listening to them and only them, so that you're not actually listening to the people in your life, and you're not listening to anybody like me who has a differing opinion on the path to empowerment. And I think that it's important to understand that. Like, you don't have to believe me right now. And as a matter of fact, I'd prefer if you didn't. I would prefer if you were extremely skeptical of all of it. Because the reality is that all too often we are told that a path to empowerment involves an individual journey where you will strip away all of these people in your life and all of these things. And they sell it as a rebirth mechanic. Unfortunately, there's no actual ego death. It's just a rebirth in the mind. There's nothing else there. And I just got to tell you, all it does is leave you alone in a world as you begin to look around and recognize that nothing that you believed was true because you bought it here on social media, none of it was actually good information. It just led you to a place where now you're alone and afraid, and you've discarded all your friends. And I think that, and the people that really cared about you. And I think that when we pull back and we really look at the effect of this messaging, and we look at the way that it is sold, and it is ubiquitous at this point in time, just constantly, oh, well, you need to be able to do this alone. You need to go off on your healing journey alone. You need to be alone when you do this. You don't have to be alone. You shouldn't be alone. You should have people around you that you believe in, that you trust, that have your best interests in mind. And if you can't find those people, then you have to figure it out on your own. Or if you've been betrayed, then you have to figure it out on your own. But in many cases, we just hear this messaging, we see these videos, we see the confidence of the people selling the idea. Well, if you just go off and you do this thing, just buy my book for $29.99 and I'll teach you to do it. You don't have to be alone. Nobody ever said that you had to do it alone, except for people trying to get you to be alone. And in other circles, we call them narcissists. Take care of yourself. Take care of others. I'll talk to you soon.